now let's move to the further session of the meeting, of the webinar. So let's start with an exchange of experiences of this process, of the implementation of this process within our respective institutions. So I think it's also useful for you to hear which are the strengths, the advantages, and also the weaknesses that we found out, or the possible obstacles that we found out in our implementation of the process. So I give the floor now to the Rector of University of Belgrade, Ivanka Popovic, and thanks once more for being here with us.
So good morning to all. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to share our experiences, and Luciano, thank you for your kind words. And thank you for selecting the University of Belgrade as, let's say, a case in point. So I have a small presentation that I would like to share with you. Hopefully now I will do it properly. Yes, here we go. So I would just like to say a few things in the beginning, and that is regarding the fact that what this means for us and why we actually got engaged in the whole process. And the University of Belgrade is a research-intensive university also, although it fulfills the function of a higher institution for mass education. But that means that all of our teachers and all of our researchers are part of the researcher charter and code. So everyone needs to be engaged. And also when you look at the aspect of when you are coming from a country that is not a member of the EU yet, you also have to make sure that you have done everything by the book to be considered properly in all of the framework programs. So it's a mixture of strategy and practical aspects that need to be taken into consideration. So please allow just a brief explanation of what our initial hardships were. The University of Belgrade is very large. It's has 31 faculties and 11 research institutes, which means there's a body of about 7,000 researchers that have PhDs, and then there is the body of PhD students. So we are really a very large research organization. One of the facts that is a drawback is that we are not an integrated university, which means that all of these faculties and research institutes are separate legal entities. So I think this is the crux of what you can understand as our problem, how to have a harmonized HR policy at all. To illustrate this, so if this is a map of the city of Belgrade, so we have our members of the university dispersed all over town, which means it's not even easy to bring people together. Most of the faculties are located in the center, but that still means that to bring physically people together to discuss and to harmonize various policies on how you can develop your HR policy and how this will have a domino effect on everything else is really quite a challenge. So the whole process started actually after the changes that were brought about in 2014. And that's when we considered getting involved with the Charter and Code. And then there came actually an Erasmus project that had a very packed agenda and very ambitious plans, which included also support for the Charter and Code. And that's how we started, and brought us to the fact that in October 2017, we got the label. And I think that was a very proud moment for the University of Belgrade. And we set up an action plan that we have been fulfilling, I must say, quite well. And the point was how to make the action plan and how to get the feedback that we needed to actually make a relevant document that just wasn't a piece of paper, but something that we would really abide by. So just as a confirmation of how we're making this visible, you see on our website in the top right corner that you can click on this HR label, which brings us to the relevant documents that have been introduced at the University of Belgrade, so that everyone theoretically that is a member of the academic community be fully aware of the transparency of our process. This is available in Serbian and in English. And by clicking onto the hyperlinks, you can get to all of the details. Now, that just means that the paper is in place. But when we talk about the implementation, there I can discuss some challenges for you. After having gotten the initial label, the working group was set up with a job to continuously monitor what was going on. And we decided to do a gap analysis, which of course did a lot of, first of all, accumulating of information from the university. At that point, I can say this was all functioning very well. And then we decided that we would do a questionnaire that would be a representative reflection of what our researchers were doing and what their opinions were. And this was quite interesting, I must say, this questionnaire. The questionnaire was sent out to many addresses, but we had finally about 1,300 researchers participating, of which half were PhD students, and we tried to represent all of the areas that we cover. And you see, it's always a little bit biased in the area of natural sciences, but still, I think it's a very objective response. And also, I think it was very important to get the youngest researchers, the early career stage researchers engaged, because more or less the charter and the HR policies, what will affect their career and what is affecting their career. So also we have a gender balance, or maybe already disbalance, because roughly we have 60% of female students, and this is slowly reflected in the staff, where even in areas of engineering, we have a very high representation of female researchers. And so to break down all of these data, you can see that we had a very even representation. But what I found very disturbing, that by this point, even though we had a very intensive campaign to promote the Charter and Code, only about 10% of the people who responded to this questionnaire were actually aware that it existed. So this is a continuous issue of how to make the Charter and Code and the HR policy visible to all actually members of the academic community. And this is an ongoing issue. Based on the outcome of the questionnaire and the desk research we did, we could set up our gap analysis, which led to the formation of our action plan. This is available in various documents. I just want to show that it's available to all who are interested. But I think what we really need to talk about is the challenges that occur. I explained already that we are not an integrated system, which means that the faculties have high degrees of independence in how to set up their HR strategy. I must say that this will go down all the way to the level of departments, where it's very difficult to, even though you have a paper system that enables a fully transparent recruitment program, that maybe on the ground at the level of departments, I cannot be fully sure that this transparency is being fully considered. So what I think is very important to say at the moment, that we have a steering group that is continuously following our improvements in what we are doing in our individual policies, and how we are trying to build the capacity and the awareness at the level of our members, of the faculties and institutes, how to continuously monitor and make sure that there are no major issues related to with our hiring policy. A problem that we are faced with is the matter of funding, which means that it's not easy for our members to plan HR expansion because of the limited funding, which is mostly, or maybe 60% through the budget of the Republic of Serbia. This also opens up the issues of our engagement in international relations and bringing in visiting and guest professors or researchers, because due to the average salaries that you have in Serbia, it's very difficult to attract foreign talent unless you have an international program or international projects that can keep up the level of salaries that you need. So this for us is a very strategic issue, because we would like to increase the number of foreign staff, but how to somehow come to an agreement that where maybe the financial aspect would not be the key attraction for people to come to our university. I would also like to say that we have slowly through the years managed to, at the level of the Senate, at the level of the university, to introduce certain umbrella documents that we think will help to have a harmonized employment policy of the University of Belgrade. But there are many things that we still have to do and that I see are serious challenges for our university. And that's why I think the HR label is such an important document that actually moves an institution to change, because it's through the HR aspect, you are actually have a domino effect that results in working conditions that are related to infrastructure, social aspects. It's really a driving force for change. And the fact that it's voluntary makes it somehow even more effective in its implementation. So I think I will stop there. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to respond. But I think it was a wise strategic decision of the university to move in this direction. And I think we are all very pleased that we have the label. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivanka, for your interesting experience at your university, and also for your very sincere, also sharing of some difficulties that you have in your context in order to accomplish all and to meet all the targets expected by the European Charter for Researchers. Now, I would give the floor to Leticia Martinez Garcia from University Libre of Bruxelles. Please.
Thank you very much, Ciro, and thank you very much, Fausta, for inviting me to this very nice, interesting event. I will share my screen with you. Let me see. Okay. Can you all see it? Yes, okay. So I hope that this presentation, sorry?
Leticia, could you put it in overview?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, there. Okay. So I hope that this presentation is useful, not only for the universities that are implementing the HR strategy for researchers right now, but also for universities that want to do so in the future. The content of the presentation will be like this. I will explain a little bit the HR strategy for researchers, the state of the art at ULB. I will go through the actions that we have implemented in between 2013 and 2021, which I think will shed quite some light on the strategy followed by the ULB. I will talk a bit about the obstacles, the benefits, and the good practices. So the objective, as we have been talking about, is the improvement of recruitment, career, working conditions, and services for researchers, which is something I think the ULB has been successfully doing for the last 9 years, since we got the HR Excellent label in 2013. And we have been doing so by following the code and the charter that you have all already mentioned. Of course, for us, it was really helpful to know that this was a continuous process, a sustainable process in which we had to review our action plans every 3 years. Of course, we wanted to bring together the strategic objectives of ULB, but also the priorities of the authorities. All in all, of course, by consulting researchers themselves or researchers community. we have been doing so through the interdepartmental coordination. So as Ivanka already mentioned, it has brought a lot of people together, the office staff, it has bring the researchers community, and this have created a continuous quality project process for us. So this is the state of the art, the current state of ULB. We received the HR level in 2013, and of course we got the endorsement for the code and the charter, and we created the gap analysis, the OETMR, and the initial plan. Many groups were involved in this. The steering committee was more related to the validation of the actions and the strategy. So they will make sure that this was in line with the university principles. We also count with the help of working groups and focus groups that were giving ideas, of course, for the action plan, and national and international experts as well to set up priorities related to your access. Now, after we received the HR Excellence Award, we have been, as I said, on a continuous quality process. Internal assessments are very important because there can be an over-ambitious planning at some points, and this internal assessment gives you an idea of how the university is and whether you have to refine a bit to narrow down the actions. Right now, we received the site visit. We received some comments, and we're trying to now implement them in the upcoming months, years. We will implement the new improved plan, of course. We will do also, we will have to prepare the HR strategy for 2022 and 2025. And we will have to create the new report for 2018 and 2021, which will be an analysis of what it has been done, what it's ongoing, and what has been delayed, basically. There will be also, we will have to apply again for the renewal of the label. And finally, we will, yes, if everything goes well, we will renew it one last time before the last one. And these are the actions that we have been taken since 2013. So it was not only paper, as it was mentioned before, but we have implemented really actions that have improved the environment for researchers at ULB. We have been very active in the gender policy and diversity plan. Indeed, there was a gender advisor named to the rector, and we have now gender advisors in every faculty of ULB to encourage diversity at all levels. And so we have been involved in numerous projects. I would like to mention the cascade measure, for example, which is an HR policy that prevents the university from not hiring lesser levels of women in the academic body. So if this year 50 women have been hiring the academic body, there will be 50 women in the next year. So the numbers cannot go down. Also, we have been in the Caliper project as well, which tries to encourage the presence of women in the STEM field, for example. As in recruitment and welcoming of researchers, we are providing now personal information to candidates. We are advertising our jobs in your access. We have improved welcome days. Now they're in English too. The guidelines to settle in Belgium, for example, that are very important, and the housing office, for example. Regarding open science, we have made much progress as well, because now, for example, researchers can use research data management tools. We encourage awareness on open science, and so we try them to use the best practice possible. As training and career development, the catalog has been extended, and now we also focus on research communication, general communication, teaching, supervision, and they are especially dedicated to research and we are as well developing a mentorship program. It's already, I think, 3 years that it's running, and it's working very well because we're pairing senior academics with the newly hired academics. And also we're providing now career advice for postdocs. As for HR and financing services, we're improving this by creating online tools that can gather everything on one database, that can standardize a bit the process. And again, they are able to provide a more personalized information to the candidates on the recruitment process. As working conditions, I have to say that this is one of the main strengths in ULB right now, because we're trying to limit instability of employment of researchers by putting in place a committee that follows them until the end of the project, follows the contract at the end of the contract. And what we're trying to do is that they fund another funding, that they have a job before the funding ends. And we have created also a maternity fund that covers the differences between the actual salary and the benefits received in Belgium. And I've been told that, for example, daycare has been a great success among the researchers that are starting new families, for example. And we have created an installation allowance as well. As for internationalization, the university has worked on being more attractive to gain visibility outside. And we have made quite some efforts to translate all the documents and all the relevant web pages also in English. And these are the actions that there have been taken and that I have been already implemented. But this obviously didn't happen without some obstacles. So at the beginning, since we started this process in 2013, there was some issues of understanding the process and the regulations of the European Commission, because as Apostolia Caramali has shown you in one of the slides, there was some process until the process is now finite, is definite. So we had some issues at the beginning. And of course, there is probably in the reconciliation of the desired improvements and the changing authorities' priorities. We're changing authorities every 4 years. So this means that, for example, the authorities that were in place 2 years ago had different priorities, and maybe the action plan can slightly change. Also, national legislation. We had problems to implement the recognition of PhD for administrative staff, for example, and also the pension scheme related to researchers. As I said before, there's some over-ambitious planning at the beginning with all the energy that you see, that you get all the inputs from everybody. You create this huge action plan that may not be very realistic, because it can end up in the delay of actions indeed. Also, I want to stress that the European Commission expectations on surveillance are high. We are working with focus groups at the moment. We're not planning to launch a survey, because here in Bologna, some universities have already tried and they didn't receive many answers. So we're receiving quite a lot of input through focus groups, and for now we will keep working with them. But so you know that it is expected that the universities survey and have a bottom-up approach to the HR strategy. Then again, we had focus groups and elected representatives, so we have a lot of input. And also it's difficult to build them, because in a survey, if you launch it, you will have 5 to 10 minutes to fill in. But when you ask if someone wants to be part of a focus group, it's more difficult to get them to get involved, because they have to give in between 3 or 4 hours of their time. So just a small obstacle there. And about benefits, of course, we have enhanced our attractiveness. We have leveled up with other universities. We have improved greatly our environment for researchers, and we have been able to democratize ideas. This means that not only authorities are proposing and are saying you have to do this or you have to do that, but it comes from the bottom. Everybody's ideas are taken into consideration, and in this way, the building up of the action plan, it's more democratic, so to say. This has rendered the university into a continuous quality process. So we're always developing new actions, new way of improvement, which I think it's great for any university. And of course, if you're for a call of proposal, if you want to build one, to have the HR Excellent Award is always an added value when it comes to finally get the grants, for example. As in good practices, as I mentioned before, it is very, very highly recommendable that you look at the bottom-up approach, that you get the ideas from the researchers community, from the administrative staff, from other working groups. For us, it was very good to use focus groups to draft the action plan and to seek the strategic advice of national experts here in Belgium and international experts. We presented our action plan to the council, the Advisors Council, and it's composed by some international experts, and they always bring new ideas and new content for the action plan. Also try before to start the process, try to address the priorities that are well mentioned in EURAccess. And also leave around a period of 6 months, because the workload can get very, very high, for the renewal of the level of at least 6 months. Also, one of the things that were mentioned during the site visit was that the researchers needed to know a bit better how the HR strategy was affecting them. So they stressed that the communication plan had to be prepared more in advance and more thoroughly. Of course, for international visibility, I would say participate as well in the EURAccess discussions and attend conferences, and also make sure that there is a steering committee that is continuously following up this process. And well, that was all for my part. On my part, thank you very much for the attention, and I pass you back the floor, Ciro.
Thank you, Leticia, for this broad overview of the positive and very concrete impacts that you had up to now in your institution. So I'll give the floor to Elias-Güthlein from University of Tübingen. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having invited me to this event and giving me the chance to present our experiences with the HRS4R. So I can see, you can see, I hope you can see the presentation right now.
Yes.
I have prepared like a little agenda to give you some insights into the University of Tübingen, our experiences in the HRS4R. So I would like to begin with the university structure, like how many students we have and how our target groups are split up. And then I will give you like a brief overview of the HRS4R process, where we're standing right now and which next steps we have to take. Also, in the third part, I want to mention some of the challenges and obstacles on the way to the interim report. So this will be like highlighted today from my side, how to prepare the interim report and what is maybe also important to know. So I will also give some insights of the feedback of the reviewers, and will then close my talk with previous and future actions on the way to the site visit, which we will attend in 2023. So the University of Tübingen is in the heart of Europe, close to Stuttgart, as you might know. We were founded in 1477, so we have a very long research tradition. We have famous alumni, as for example, Kepler, Hegel, Misha, who actually found the human DNA in the kitchen of the castle of Tübingen. So a little side fact here: Braun, Alzheimer, Ratzinger. So this will be not a sales pitch here, but I will also come to the difficulties in our process of HRS4R, but this is just our long tradition, which we are proud of. Today we have 27,000 students, around about 4,900 doctoral students, 2,200 postdocs, and 500 professors. So you have maybe a broad idea how many people are involved in the HRS4R process. So where are we standing? In 2015-16, we started with the initial phase with the gap analysis, OTMR, and the initial action plan. In 2017, we were granted with the award. And then we started with the implementation phase. And after 24 months, we had to submit the interim assessment that was in December 2019. And now we are kind of the middle to the site visit, which will be in March 2023. So we are very happy that Leticia, the previous speaker, already gave us some insight on how to handle this and what we have to be aware of. So talking about the challenges on the way to the interim report, I think the most challenging part was that I was just a newbie in the researcher development in Tübingen. So I had not a lot of experiences in HR in general, but also in the special issues of academic HR. So, and also in our team, we were just, my colleague and I, we had to manage the Graduate Academy, and we were waiting for new members to join us, but now we're a team of 8 people. So you can imagine that in the beginning there was a huge workload, and we had also to manage this HRS4R, which was my responsibility. So I think like this exchange of ideas, previous experiences in the HRS4R and the transfer to new working members in your department is something you have to be always aware of. Also, we had like a huge restructuring process in the university itself, in the units, as we have split it up, the HR in a department which was only concerned with HR in a general sense, so like the staff of the university, and the academic HR, but at the same time in the human resource department, they are also responsible for professors and junior professors with tenure track. So the division was a little bit difficult to take in, and also the communication for some of the action which were like in a gray zone between these two departments was difficult, and also changes in teams made it difficult to come to information about actions. Then also the form of the application was for me personally challenging, as I was not very experienced in grant writing. And so I was not really sure how to fill in all the questions and how this application was actually structured and what was the idea behind it. So I had to make some research on how to best answer them. And also timing is a thing. At the University of Tübingen, we have the presidential office, which has like surveillance and control over all processes, and we had to communicate with them how to build up the action plan and how to update information. So this is also difficult, and you have just to be aware that maybe some of the application questions have to be communicated to the presidential office and the rector to be just sure that you're on the good side for the university. So what can I recommend to get through this phase and to master the interim report? I think first of all, the most important thing for me was were best practices from other universities. So I was just studying action plans. I was talking, of course, to other universities, and we're questioning how did they do the interim report. There are a lot of universities ahead of us, so I was able to talk to a lot of universities in Germany, but also abroad, so that helped me actually a lot. And also conferences or workshops, webinars like this one helped me, as you can just state questions and see how other universities are dealing with the reports and site visitors. And yeah, last but not least, you need a good team in the back, also for on the level of formulation, on the level of strategic planning. This is, I think, of course, one of the obvious things you need to succeed in the HRS4R process. Yeah, so in the beginning of the interim report, I thought the core or most important aspect of this whole interim report would be the action plan. So I was like really focusing on the actions, and we have submitted in the initial phase like 40 actions, what is a lot. I wouldn't recommend you to build so many actions. So we had basically for every principle, we defined an action. So that was before my time, but they defined it. And so you have to deal with it, that you have like a lot of actions in the back, and you need to always have like an overview about all the actions, and as there are different units involved, you have to ask them how far they are in the implementation process. So it's quite difficult to just be always updated about all the actions. And we had at the time in 2019 completed 15 actions, 6 were extended, 18 in progress, and we haven't defined any new actions as we had so many that we thought it's best to just wait until we have a little bit more progress. And I was actually very concerned that this was not enough progress for the reviewers, but that was actually not our problem. Talking now about the feedback of the reviewers, the most important thing was the OTMR checklist, as most of you probably know. And we had indeed some difficulties, as some of the documents are only available in the intranet of the university, so that's a problem. But it's also because we are now at the moment introducing a new recruitment online tool, and in this the OTMR regulations will also communicate to the candidates. So we're in a moment of transition, and of course we have to improve our OTMR guidelines, and this is very important for the site visit now. Also concerning the action plan, it was not criticized that we haven't had enough accomplished actions or something, but that we haven't defined for every action indicators. So I think that is a very important part, is not only to say we want to open courses for good scientific practice, for example, but to define how many courses are you planning to open and how many people should attend those courses, that you can give almost like an exact percentage number where you are on the in the implementation process. So if you're saying like we want to open 5 new courses and by now we have 3, then in the next half year we want to open 2 new courses. That would be, I think, like a perfect indicator, just to make sure that everybody have an insight on how far you are in the implementation process. Also, as the previous speaker, Leticia, has mentioned, supervision of the whole implementation process. So we have a steering group, but this was not enough. They were asking for working groups. Now I heard focus groups also. So we have maybe to introduce some focus groups, and yeah, so that was also a challenge. And that was, the last point was not actually criticized by the reviewers, but is an important aspect we always try to work on, is the visibility of the whole audit. So this is very challenging at the University of Tübingen to promote the HRS4R, and that everybody, especially the target groups, are also aware about the certificate program. So I come to my last point, previous and future actions on the way to the site visit. I think the most important thing is the introduction of the Roundtable. This is our brand actually for the Roundtable, so that's why I use this form to give you the previous information. We try to promote the Roundtable by this brand, and that everybody knows, every unit which is involved in the HRS4R knows about what is upcoming, the status quo, and also give us updates about the actions. So I think this is like a very good tool to just supervise the whole process, and the Roundtable is also attended by like members of the presidential office, so that gives a little bit leverage to the whole format. Also, the introduction of the new online tool, as I have already mentioned, is now a priority, and we hope that with this tool we can actually solve the problems with the OTMR guidelines. We are also, of course, defining indicators now for every action and try to make sure that it's understandable on how far we are in the implementation process. And last but not least, the communication strategy we are still working on. So how to promote the HRS4R. This is still difficult for us. If you have feedback for that, we would be more than happy. We started, for example, a new website. We have now this placard which we are hanging in the university's institutions and buildings, so that everybody sees the logo and knows a little bit about the whole certificate process. But still, this is not, I think, enough for be sure that everybody is more or less aware about the HRS4R. So if you have any suggestions on how we could improve our communication strategy or how we can improve the process, let's get in touch and stay in touch. Would be more than happy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to give this presentation, and I'm done.
Thanks, Elias. That was very interesting also in terms, thanks in particular for the suggestion you gave to the applying institutions. And I really agree with the number of indicators. This is a very important issue that you include in that should be included in